Okay, Jacqueline, here's a couple of examples of the ones you gave me, you sent. Sorry for the crudeness of it. It's very quickly done with very little time to practice it over. Starting with the first one, what you're trying to do is get this variable a. A variable is just simply what you don't know. A number you don't know. Could be any number. So you don't know what a is. So you want him all by himself. And the easiest way to get him all by himself, there's two ways to look at it. You can take what's over here with it, which is the takeaway 2, and move it over to this side. When you move it over to that side, it becomes plus 2. And it's gone from over here. So you're left with a on this side and negative 5 on this side, but don't forget you've got plus 2. Now if you look at 2 take away 5 on this side, it's going to be negative 3 equals a. And that's your answer for a. So that's one way to look at it. The other way, it all depends on which way that your teacher teaches it. The other way that they might have told you to do it was if you have a takeaway 2 over here, in order to cancel the negative 2 out, you add 2 to this side. But of course, whatever you do to this side, you must do to that side. So I've got to add 2 to the negative 5 side. So that cancels out this here, and you're left with a. And over here, it's basically 2 take away 5, which leaves you with negative 3, just like a thermometer. 2, then you go down 5, you'll be in the negatives. So there's two ways to look at it depending on which way your teacher wants it done. Some people just like to take the negative 2 and move it to the other side. When you move it to the other side, you're basically changing it from a negative to a positive. If this was a positive 2, you would change it to a negative 2 on this side, and then just put these things together. And so this is a pretty basic and straightforward one. You're always trying to get the a by itself or whatever letter by itself. In your second example, the biggest difference is if you were to move this here 5.2 over to this side, in other words, take away 5.2 here, when you move it over here, it's going to be take away 5.2 on this side. So you just punch this into the calculator. You'd go negative 5.2 plus 1.3. Or you could have done it 1.3 take away 5.2. Either way you want to look at it. But if you did that, you'd have a negative w left on this side, which then you'd have to divide each side by negative or just switch the signs. So perhaps the easiest way to do that one would be, instead of, in this case, doing one move, we can move this negative w over to this side, and he becomes positive w. So we're going to have w there. And we're also going to move this guy over to the other side here. So we're putting all the numbers with all the numbers. So W is the only thing left on that side now. 5.2 was still there. And this 1.3 became a negative 1.3. Now all you have to do is 5.2 take away 1.3, and you would be left with, if I'm not mistaken, 4, oops, let me see, 5.2, take away be 4.2, so you left with 3.9 would be your answer. It's pretty hard to write with a mouse sometimes. Okay, so that's the easiest way to do it. If you've got a negative variable like negative w that you're trying, I'd move it to the other side and move the numbers over there. Otherwise, at the end, you're just going to have to change this negative to a positive and then change whatever this was to the opposite sign. So it's the easiest way is just move the w. This one is a common one a lot of students have trouble with. The problem is you can't move this 8 over here, and you can't move the y because it's part of a brackets. So what you got to do is simplify it. And basically what that means is anything that's outside of the brackets, so let's say if it was something in brackets that was simple, like a 4. If there's an 8 outside a bracket that has a 4, all that means is you multiply whatever's inside this bracket by whatever is touching the bracket on the outside. So in this case, it's 8 times 4 is 32. So that's simplified. In this case, we don't have just one number. We have two different things to multiply it by. So let's multiply the 8 by the y first. What's 8 times y? Well, we can't really do much with that. It's just 8y. And what's 8 times negative 5? And we know it's a negative 5 because it's take away 5. So 8 times 5 is 40, but because it's a negative, it's negative 40. So we just now simplified this into this. And of course, remember, 7y is still on this side. Now, we always want to put our y's with the y's and our negatives with the numbers with the numbers. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to shift this here negative 40 over to this side. So I'll shift him over and that becomes not a negative 40 but a positive 40. Okay. So he's gone from this side because we shifted him. You've still got this 7y over here though, don't we? So we don't want this positive 7y on this side. We want to bring it over to the other side. So I'm going to shift him to this side to be with his y friends. So we've got 8y. When we shift this positive 7y over, it becomes negative 7y. Now let's see what we got left. 8y's, take away 7 of them, we're just left with 1y equals 40. And there's our answer. So remember a couple of things. Whenever you see brackets, you're going to have to simplify it by multiplying it through. And whenever you have two variables, you're going to end up, after simplifying it, moving all of the same variables to the same side and taking away whatever you have or adding whatever you have, depending on what the sign is. So I hope this helps you out a little bit. If you got any other questions, I can do my best to see if I can help you out. But I'd say this should be pretty straightforward for you.